Okay, here in front of me I have one of these water high pressure washing machine, and it's from the supermarket called Aldi in Australia, and they have these products and the brand name is Work Zone. Now I know this Work Zone is actually used in England as well, because I've done some research on this particular machine. And I kid you not, this machine was only used maximum of around 7 times. But in those 7 times that I've used it, okay, probably 5, 6 years gone have passed. So in about 5 to 6 years, okay, I've used it about 7 times. And the last time I've used it, which probably was about the 7th time, the pressure have dropped and the machine started leaking internally. So I thought, this brand, in actual fact, when I bought this machine, it's got the soap. You can mix detergent with it. It's got a bottle of detergent, and that never worked. No detergent ever came out. And when I went to take it back to the shop, right after I bought it, they said you have to take it somewhere in the city central of Melbourne, and so I didn't bother. And I kept it like that. So now that it broke down and water was coming out, I assumed the water is coming out of the pump, though I never have taken apart a high pressure pump before, and I don't know what they were like and how they work and all that. And in actual fact, I was going to chuck it out, but I thought I'll take it apart and see what's wrong with it, see where the leak is from. So after taking it apart, and I will show you right now. So after you remove the front cover, which there's a lot of screws you need to take off, you got the motor, and there's the pump in the bottom, which I already have taken apart. So I'll put this on the bench and show you. Okay, so I've got the machine taken apart. This is what is called the head of the unit. That's a pressure switch here. And it's got these 3 pistons here. And inside here, there's 4 bolts, of course, that bolts that section to there. Okay. But for this purpose, it's already taken apart. At first, when I took the screws out, I had it angled like that. I didn't know that there's oil inside, and the way it was going to come apart, that all the oil is going to all pour out. So I had oil everywhere on the bench. But come on. Okay, so I got that bolt out. Okay, and the oil is in here. And there's a rotary here, cam, that when the motor turns goes on an angle, right? And each valve takes its turn to go up and down. And of course, each piston, not valve, it's got a spring, which I took off. And the problem anyway was, one of these pistons was corroded. And let's see which one it is. Because I have removed the rust, of course. It was all rusted. And actually not one, it's actually 2 that they were rusted, but one was more than the other. I think it's this one. Okay. So this was all rusted to all the end here was all rusted and pitted, and you can see the metal have corroded away, and it's eroded the surface quite badly. So that one, and this one as well. Okay, and this one is still not bad. So there was one piston that was not eroded, and from what I could assume is that was the high piston that was maybe had less water in there. So the spring goes in there, Okay, that goes in there. You've probably seen these videos. At the time that I took it apart, I didn't look up any videos on YouTube, okay? But after I took it apart, I did have a look around at some videos, and there was a couple of videos at least that some people took these apart and replaced the seals. But I've tried to get the seals in Australia for this model. So I called this company here, okay, called service@actionspares.com. And the only thing they sell, okay, they don't sell any internal parts. You know all they sell you? A hose and the attachment fittings, like the spray, the nozzle, the hose and things like that. Anything inside the motor, the pump, they don't sell you nothing. Well, guess what? In most cases, it's not the nozzle and the hose that's going to go, okay? Though you would think if they sell them, obviously people do change them. But the issue with this is corrosion. So I discovered, after really thinking about it, I have discovered that this has a flaw. And the flaw is, and I'll show you here, the flaw is, okay, in the hose system. This system, okay, has a pump in the bottom and the head. Then it's got this hose, which is the output, the pressure out from the head. It goes all the way up to this here. It's got a swivel seal, and around here you got the hose, which you see on the floor there, and it winds the hose. So when you finish using the machine, okay, the hose is still full of water, okay, which this pipe, vertical, which have to travel about 1 meter up high, and then how many meters the hose is full of water, okay? That means eventually the pump where the pistons are always going to be full of water, even though this head here, okay, have what they call check valves. And the valves are there to keep the pressure constant, okay? They only have little plastic seals with a little fine spring. So it's got 6 of them, 3 there and 3 here. This is the chamber where the piston, these pistons run in there, okay? If you have them at the right direction, of course. Like that, going up and down, and they create pressure, they compress the water. So there's a seal here, which I removed. Of course, one of the seals was fully blown. So that seal is not bad, but this seal is completely gone. And I'll show you that you can see the size is much bigger. You can see the hole size. So when you remove the piston, okay, that fits tight in there, you see. And this one, the blown one, the piston is completely blown. Just drops out. So that was the one that was leaking, right? But from what I can assume is the piston corroded in the edge, and when it ran, it damaged the seal, the pressure seal. And all here was full of rust. But like this one, it had less rust, and you can see, I can't remember which one it was. I think maybe this one was the most pitted piston in there that runs in there. But what the flaw is this, that when you finish using the machine, eventually the water will leak back after a long time storage. You don't use the machine. It will come back in the chamber because you can never drain the water out, okay, from the way the system is. I actually believe, so this is the input. This is the input. and that's the output. And again, it's got another check valve there, and this is where it sucks the water's coming out from here. It creates a vacuum from the water itself and pulls. There's a bowl there with a spring, and the detergent comes back there. Though this was not really blocked, so I'm not sure why the detergent didn't work anyway. So I believe, right, a good system is the hose should not go, does a 90 and goes up around a coil of pipe. Eventually that water is going to drain back, even though it's got valves here, and this chamber will stay full of water. Okay, which not unless these are made out of stainless steel. This is normal steel, but they blackened. Now, blackened metal, you can do it chemically, or you can do it by heating it up and putting it in oil, and it creates, I'm not exactly sure to know the proper theory, like a carbonized into the metal, and it protects it not to rust. Now, but eventually it's still rusted. So what I thought is, as I was saying, a good system is it should come out horizontal, okay, and you should be able to have a fitting to disconnect the hose, so when you're finished, okay, you can actually drain the water out. Okay, and now I'm aware that they have these pump savers, they called, which is some sort of antifreeze, some liquid like similar to what you put in the car with oil in it. And when you're finished, you connect it here in the input instead of the water, and you let it cycle through, and it keeps the parts, these pistons, lubricated, and do not corrode. But I don't believe that system is going to work in this particular style of machine, because how I said, it's got, I'm not sure how long the cable is, right? But let's say you probably got at least 10 meters of hose. Okay, at least you got 1 meter height of vertical of the internal hose, plus another 10 meters of hose. So you're not going to recycle that pump saver all the way through 10 meter hose or 11 meters of hose. Okay, you can. Okay, if this product is cheap, well, in Australia it will cost you to buy this around $50 for a small bottle. And the $50 plus delivery, because it actually only the Americans make it. Okay? Now in America, it's probably a cheap product to buy, but in Australia, everything's a rip-off. So there's no way, there's no bloody chance I'm going to be buying that product and do that, right? Especially in this system. How I said, if you can take the hose out, maybe. So a good way is to have a system where you can disconnect that hose, or have a T here, some sort of fitting arrangement that you can drain the water out when you're finished. Okay? And you can pump that little bit of water, maybe spray some WD-40 and run it for couple of seconds. Okay? Spraying it in there to hopefully it gets in. And you have some lubrication here as well to create your own sort of anti-corrosion. But you cannot have 11 meters of hose still connected to it with a 1 meter vertical, okay, of hose. Not unless it's all horizontal, but in this system you cannot do it. So this work zone is a flawed, and I would never, so you hear that, Aldi? I would never buy any work zone or any machine that it's made like that, okay? So the products from Aldi, they are not good. Do not buy them. They can't even make a tea bag. The tea bags of Aldi to make a cup of tea, as soon as you put it in the water, the string that holds the tea bag breaks off. Okay? Up to this day, they have been at least about 10 years in Australia, they still haven't been capable of fixing that issue. Plus many other products they have, they actually have these type of issues. You can't open, you buy the product, you can't open the lid or this sort of thing. But I'm not saying that this machine is designed by Aldi, but their products are not good. And this is one of them. Not only that, they will not sell you the internal parts. So after a lot of research, okay, so this company here, okay, that they're hoping that you will not get the internal parts, Service at Action Spares, okay, I managed to find the parts. And the parts, I found them on AliExpress, not by a part number. You will never find them under part numbers. So, and I had to measure the seals. So after removing the seals, okay, I've measured the internal diameter, the outside diameter, and the height. They are 3 brand new seals. So for anybody, that seal is 12 mil, which is the ID internal. That's what the size of the piston is. By 18 mil, the outside, by 5.1. And that 5 doesn't really show it, but that's what it is. And then it's got 3 other more seals. Now these seals are to stop the oil from the gearbox, okay, or the rotary section. It's to stop the oil, okay, to come out. And that one is a special, it's a different type of seal, and you can see it's got sort of three types of seals: a wiper and an oil seal from the back. Now this seal, okay, the size is 12 mil. The phone is not focusing, the camera, by 20 by 5 to 7. So the 5 to 7 is, 5 is the thickness here, okay, the thickness there, and the 7 is the height of the seal that goes up, 7 mil, and 12 is the internal for the same size piston, of course, and 20 mil is the outside diameter, okay. And I got 3 brand new pistons. The only problem is this. I was hoping these are stainless steel, because you know a lot of the sellers from AliExpress, either they don't respond, you ask them a question, but I did probably have a feeling that they won't be made out of stainless steel, because a lot of the Chinese, they don't want to give you good products, so you keep buying. And they're not blackened, so I'm sure this would rust, okay. But anyway, maybe I can try to blacken them myself. So that's that. They're the seals and the pistons, okay. So I was able to buy those, and again, I'm not really sure if this is going to work in the end, right? Because I never fixed anything like this before. The springs, you can buy the springs, but then it's going to cost you more. The springs on mine are still okay, so I'm not, I didn't replace them. But what I'm going to be doing is, I'm going to modify the output. I am not going to have it like before, because like before, the same thing's going to happen. I know 100%. So let me put the stand camera, because I probably made you sick with the movement. Okay. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to machine a fitting in here, the same size, same shape and size as that fitting, because that's what goes in there. Okay. So I'm going to have to make that, and I'm going to make it out of brass on the lathe. And then this fitting, okay, of course you could probably go to a hydraulic hose center, okay, but by the time in Australia they would make you new hoses, and maybe you might be able to get some fittings, you probably have to spend about $100. Well, $100, just might as well buy a new machine. I mean, a machine like this cost more than $100, but you're not going to go through all this work. Plus, I had to buy the parts, which cost me about $45 Australian. The pistons and the seals weren't really cheap. Delivered, that's including delivery. It's not worth doing. So, since I like to have some sort of hobby, that's the only reason why I'm fixing this. But what I'm going to do is, this hose, as you can see, goes to the bottom, and the head fits under there, and that will fit like that in the machine. Okay? I am not going to have that system. My idea is, and if you see, back of the machine here, okay, back at the cover, it looks like they prepared from the factory some sort of cutout there that they could have maybe had a hose there. Okay, and that's the best way they should have done it. Okay, so obviously they prepared that for an alternative if they wanted to have the output straight out. And if they done the output straight out, they would have had it where the hose just fits on there. Okay, and therefore you can disconnect the hose, and you're going to have less water. You can actually pump that water out. Okay, and so what am I going to do? Because I never continued. This hose, I'm going to drill a hole at the back of the machine, and that hose is going to come from the back. And this part, where from the factory you could see how they was designed that they could have had the output at the back. I'm gonna, once I make that fitting, okay, I cannot make thread, okay, I wouldn't even know how to make it, but so this is a water fitting that was part of let me see, this was out of a tap here that was like that. I actually cut that off and I put it on the lathe, machined it, and machined a bit inside to have a nice clean round surface. Okay, and after I machine the input that goes into here, I'm going to weld that, brace that to this, or solder it. So this will look something like this. Then that will come out at the back of the casing. Then I'm going to put a T here, screw a T, okay? And then I'm going to have one side is the pressure out, where that hose that I said is going to come out outside the casing, not from the internal, that normally plugs into this, is going to plug into there. So I had to make another machining part, and I machined this. So this was a brass fitting, a water brass fitting, and it's got two sizes, okay? So, I'll show you again. So this fitting have two sizes. Where the O-ring is, which is, it's right there, okay? And I hope that's focusing. Where the O-ring is, that size is 15 mil. And this section is 16 mil, so it's 1 mil bigger. So that's how this internal part is made. 16 mil, and then where this O-ring is, it's 15 mil internal. So I didn't make the whole fitting. The fitting had a different size in here. It just was one hole, but it was smaller, so I was able to machine it in the lathe, which I already did. So this fitting, as you can see, have two sizes now. 16 mil, and from the inside there, it's 1 mil smaller, and this side is 15 mil. Okay? Now this fitting will fit into there. Okay? So that fitting fits there. It's very tight because that's where the seal is, and I made it on purpose tight. There you go. You see? All that I still have to do with this is see if I can make the locking system. Okay, that's the O-ring being tight, to have the same locking, maybe 2 holes drilled into there to lock the fitting in. Then when I have that hose coming from the back, and the T-section will be coming out from here, okay, so concentrate on the machine. I'll have that fitting coming out like that. The hose, that fitting, either from there, I'll have to still decide because I haven't made the hose come out yet. And imagine that's the hose. It's gonna, or this, maybe this one, will plug into there. That's the pressure hose. Either this way or that way. And then the other section will have either a tap or a block off, where you can unscrew the block off and drain the water out from the whole system of the hoses. Then if you want to use that pump saver, or you can spray some WD-40 in the input, okay, and run it for a couple of seconds. So that's my plan. So that's what I'm doing. Okay, so I still have to make the fitting that goes into this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have a lock system where I'm going to have an angle iron plate that where you cut here will fit on the fitting once it goes in. Okay, this is just a piece of aluminium. I have to cut it. And then I'll have 2 screws here, and it screws to there to lock it. Hopefully that will be enough not to let it come out. In the end, I'm not sure how that's going to be, but hopefully that will work. So I'm going to have to drill 2 holes here to put thread on another way too. I could have, let's say you could drill 320 degrees and you put a grub screw and you hold that fitting with the grub screw, but I don't really want to be doing that. I want to try this first and see what happens. So here the hole's going to go all the way through, because in this section, if water comes up from here, it means the seal has failed, the O-ring. I don't know why that took so long to drill, but I will tap that. Tap in the holes. Not in focus, man. And there's the screws. Just 2 Allen keys, screws fitted in there. Okay, so here I cut the grill, drilled it and filed it and with the blade, and to make room for the hose, the internal hose to come on the outside, and from the inside. Okay, so what I'm going to do, just to protect the hose around the section here, though it's plastic, but you never know, it could eventually cut into the hose. I'm going to put heat shrink here, so probably I'll do at least 2 or 3 as soon as I heat shrink it. If I can get it in. Anyway, I'll pass that on and show you when it's done. Okay, so that's with the heat shrink on there. So yeah, hopefully that shouldn't cut into the hose. And the fitting is going to go like that. Okay, just drill the hole there with a stepper drill, 20 mil. That will fit the fitting in there. So now it's time to solder this fitting here. Okay, so that has to be soldered in there. I've got some liquid flux here. I don't know how good it is. I bought some time ago from AliExpress. So I'm putting some of that. Okay. So we'll see how we go. Okay, so I'll just cool it down. Okay, so that's how the fittings are going to be. That has to be pressed in all the way down. So that fitting that I machined is soldered to that, and the head unit will look like this now. That will screw in like that. Okay, so that's how it fits anyway. It's just, instead of it's going to have the hose from there, it's got the fitting there. Anyway, and these are the 3 oil seals. These were still okay. So that's to stop the oil coming out from the gearbox section. Not a gearbox, the rotary plate with the bearing that is the compressor section. And the oil that I've used, some people on the internet recommended 15W-40. I used a 5W-40, a Panerai engine oil, 5W. It's a very good, very expensive oil. 5W-40, I think that should be okay. In actual fact, the oil that came out of the compressor, and I said this, I only used this machine about 7 times. You can see the oil is black or grayish looking. Okay, so it wasn't really good anyway. So I don't know what the Chinese used. So anyway, that's that. I also changed the check valves, which is these ones in this Aldi product machine here, and they're all the same. Okay, so it's got an oil seal here, sorry, an O-ring, not an oil seal, sorry, O-ring. It's a water seal. This comes apart, okay, and there's a spring, and that's where it seats, and that fell on the ground, but that's okay. Now the ones that I've got, They are not the same exactly, right? And what I did, I found a seller on eBay which sold this kit, which comes with the seals as well. This was a cheaper kit, and that's a much longer valve there, check valve. But they had the same height check valves, except the O-ring was slightly bigger. So what I did, I changed the O-ring to a smaller one. So when it fits in the chamber, it's not too tight. Because the O-ring that these ones come with is slightly thicker, and it's too hard to fit it. So, and also what I did, I replaced the springs. I used the old springs out of this to put in the new check valve, because the spring on this was slightly stronger than the new check valve. Seems to have a very weak spring in it. So that means there could be more chance of leaking if the spring is not tensioned enough. So that's what I did. So also now, getting back to the compressor here, this is the fitting that I did here, okay? There I drilled a hole at the back. So when I'm fitting the motor back now, the compressor back, the way it's going to be is, that's the front. So this part will fit in there, okay? And you can see the hole there, so that's going to go right through there, okay? And it comes out the back. Now, also I've realized there's actually a bolt here that holds the pump tight. Let me find the bolt. Okay, so there's this bolt here which had a washer there, and what I found, that this bolt is too short. That means it's only going in the fitting, the pump section, about 5 mil, so like 2.5 threads to 3 threads. So here I marked where this screw threads up to this white line inside the housing of the pump there. The first line, okay, that line here is where the plastic finishes from the inside. So thread wise, it's only going to be 2 threads. So from that line to there, it's going to go into the unit. So the assholes that made this machine, they've put a short bolt there, and it's too short. And that's the correct length that it should be. So that's what I will call people like that do things like that. Now, the other thing that I have discovered is what I have to do now since this modification. This, of course, is the lock that I created with 2 screws here to lock this fitting. Once it goes inside there, it's going to lock it not to come out, and I created that system. Okay, if this brass part was longer, I would have kept the same system where you put the 2 pins, and I'll show you here. So originally this is the locking part, it's this I haven't pressed it in, is this U-bolt here. Okay, so So that's the fitting I created, and it's got a channel here where this U-bolt will lock inside and stops it coming out. But if I had enough length on this section, I would have created the same thing, and wide enough that I can drill the two holes like what's in there. Okay, so the other part that I've realized is once this fitting comes out at the back here, okay, is I need to have a spanner to be able to hold it so this doesn't twist around. So the nut here, okay, which fits onto there, when I come to screw this T, I need to be able to hold it. Come on. I need to be able to hold it to be able to tighten this section. Okay. So I've realized here there's already a hole here. Of course, not designed for that. I have to make it wider to be able to fit the spanner. Okay. And I can put the spanner inside, which will come to there. So I can lock that. So I can able to tighten this. So I have to widen this much wider. So I say probably has to be cut around like that. That spanner can fit in there, or even wider. I probably have to cut that section there. Okay, so then I can feed the spanner here and tighten the elbow, the T. So that's that. This probably spanner is very wide here. If I had a better one, smaller, it would have been better. That means I'll cut a smaller hole, but I'll have to make it a bit wider. So there you go. I can do it with that. It's a matter of twisting this until you get it from the inside. If I can show you. Okay, so you'll turn the fitting, which you can turn it because it's on the O-ring, until you get that to fit in there. So I can be able to hold that in there while tightening the T connector. Let's go out of focus. While tightening the T connector there. So that's the whole purpose of making that hole wider, bigger. So I already had a hole in there, which was this one here. Okay, and I've widened all that up. I'll just make it a bit nicer. I'll clean it up. And that will be that. So this is, the more you modify, you start something, the more you got to keep modifying. So unfortunately, that's how it is, okay? Regarding this, so these bolts here, I could not undo these. They were very tight. In actual fact, they started to strip inside the Allen key section. And what I had to do is, one of them I had to use the vice grips to take one of these off. I think it's that one. You can see the mark of the vice grips. But I had to heat it up with the torch just around here. Not too much heat because there is plastic around here, like this pressure switch. Okay. And once I heated it, that's when it actually got undone. I did use never seize in the thread after I screwed them back in. So those I couldn't get off, and the same thing with these. I could not get these off. And you can see how it started to round off the Allen key section in there. So there, I used the vice grip on that one too. The vice grip from the outside was able to undo it. But with the Allen key, okay, in there, of course, the right fitting, which I had a socket type with the wrench, they were so tight it would not move. Okay, they were very tight, but the heat got them undone. I was able to, the only thing I couldn't remove, because this, why did I have to remove these? It's to replace these check valves here. They're actually inside in there. The only thing I couldn't get undone as well was this, the nut of the pressure switch. Now this part, this plastic, you can remove the cover here, but the other section doesn't come off. Okay, you cannot remove the plastic. So I could not heat it up, otherwise I would have melted the whole thing here. Because I would have liked to remove this and just to make sure everything was clean inside there. But it's so tight, I cannot remove it. Either they put some sort of sealer in there, Loctite, or the aluminium is just way too tight on the surface here. The friction is way too high. So I decided to leave it because I was going to damage it. So that's the other part that I wanted to mention. Okay. So I fitted back the pump and the motor assembly, and I fitted also the longer bolt at the back, and it's tightened, it's fully tightened. Okay, and everything's solid. And now we can see the fitting, okay, from inside. Okay, and from that now I'm able to put the 7/8 spanner inside here onto that fitting, which I can hold and then tighten this. Okay, because this can spin around because it's only on the O-ring and that fitting inside that holds with the U clip to hold it not to come out. Okay. This is just a bit of a color, ash nail polish that I've put on there to be able to mark these holes. So that fits in there and locks that fitting inside. Once I put the screws in here. Okay. So that will be like that. And I'll put the other screw. So now this cannot come out because it's locked. Just bring the camera down. Okay, so that's how that system is now. Okay. And from the other section of the T, I'll be having this ball valve here. And once I'm finished with the machine, which hopefully if it all works, I don't know if it's going to work, I'll be able to drain the water out of the reel, which the reel is up there with about, I'm not sure how long the hose is, you know, haven't, maybe 6 to 10 meters, I'm not sure. So the water can drain out. So those check valves eventually, they might leak or along the ears sitting, and that's what I think what happened to it, because I wasn't really using it. And then the water chamber where the pistons are rusted out the pistons. But of course they still can rust because they do run in water. So and then eventually when I'm finished, I will try to spray some oil in there. Okay. Technically you really need to pressurize this because it's got the check valve, so it's got that little spring inside, and the pressure of the water will actually open it. Okay. The water pressure, not from the pump, from the water inlet, from the household water. And you could maybe pressurize this with some oil. You know, if you remove the fitting, the water fitting here for your hose. So to lubricate those pistons instead of being just in water, if you're gonna store it and not use it for a long time. So hopefully, if it will work, because I don't know again what I'm doing, if it's gonna work. And I don't know if this chamber here being wider, if it's gonna affect the pressure, the main pressure. I mean, it's a small section. This gotta pressurize first before then the pressure is gonna come back out of the hose. What was I saying? Yeah. Yeah, so the idea is to drain the water out of the reel. Because professional machines, they disconnect the hose from here. So you don't have all that water stored in the hose, 10 meter of hose, okay? And I actually believe that's the actual problem with this. I'll be changing this O-ring, of course. And now anybody interested, these O-rings, the size of this O-ring and the size of the O-ring here, which is that one, I actually put a new one in the other fitting that went in the chamber, is, I've bought a kit here. But the kit, it's not just any kit. The thickness of the O-ring is 2.65 millimeters, and that's what it has to be. See, a lot of the O-rings from China, they're 2 or 1.8, you know. It's hard to find, though I did find this from China from AliExpress, but I had to do a lot of search to find it. And it only came in a kit like this. So this O-ring, let's see which one this was. I think it was this one. Yeah. So this was 10.6. Let's see, because I forgot. Yeah, this was about 15 there, yeah. That's right. So that was the 15 mil outside diameter. And inside, yeah, it was about 10 or 10.6. So I think it's the 10.6 by 15, and the thickness is 2.65. Okay. So that's what's going to go in this section here. Once I remove this back up again. Okay. So that was for the O-ring. This O-ring goes inside there. And dropped it. Okay. But there's another O-ring here for the water section. I mean, these you can buy from anywhere. And this one is cracked and actually broke when I come to take it off because it's gone hard. But this one, it's a bigger size, and it's let's see, I think. It's about 16 outside by, of course it's very tricky to measure this because you could stretch it. By about 11 something, 11.2. Because looking at this, okay, which is the internal diameter. It's slightly bigger. But anyway, that's the same as that. Okay. You can see it's the same. But the importance is the thickness. It's 2.65 millimeters. Okay. So I'll be putting that new O-ring in there. There you go. Okay, so it's all assembled. I fitted the O-ring. I've put the water sealant tape around the threads, fitted the valve here, shut-off valve, or to drain the water. Okay. This O-ring really here does nothing. It's more like just to keep it a bit more tighter here, because it's got the white what do you call it, Teflon tape around the thread, and it's inside. The only thing I haven't fitted is the front cover, but I fitted the switch back, the wires. Okay, haven't tried it yet, I don't know, still have to plug the water in. So everything is fitted, all the screws except the front cover, okay, which is on the floor here. So I will test it to see if there's any leaks and if it's going to work, and see what happens. I still have to hook up the hose actually back up here. So it's got a cable tie here that holds the hose. So I'll wind the hose back up and put a cable tie there, and then I'll put it outside, connect it up, and see what happens. Okay, moment of truth. I haven't run the unit yet. That water that you see there, that was from the connection here. It sprung a leak on the hose, and I had to fix it up. So I had a leak right on that fitting there. So I haven't turned it on yet. Up to now, there don't seem to be any leaks while hooking up the water input. So I've got it wired, ready to turn it on. Okay, so we'll keep an eye on the back when I turn the switch on. So that means it's primed and it built up pressure, so it's switched off. Let's see, hopefully. Let's keep an eye on the fittings while I run the system. Okay, well that's the failure. Well, that's what you call a fail. So, hang on a minute. So, the fitting I didn't last long. Obviously, cannot handle the pressure. It actually busted the bolts. How much pressure did this thing build? So it actually snaps the head of the bolts. Incredible. Whew. So this aluminium, it actually bent it less. Wow. Have a look at that. That actually bent it. Flattened it. I never thought that pressure is that high. Not unless, because the T could be building too much pressure here. Maybe, I don't know. But definitely that didn't hold didn't hold it, so I'm going to have an issue there. I'll probably have to make a different fitting here. Showing you nothing. So obviously that didn't hold, and I'm going to have to make a new fitting here with a different system. I cannot believe that smashed the aluminium completely. Did it build up too much pressure maybe? I'll have to see. So I'm just thinking, could it be a Titanic issue? This bolt of just these screws, I've realized they're not very strong. You see how the head of it, the head of the screw, the head of the screw is very weak. You see, it's actually got a hole in it where the Allen key goes. Okay, and the way it broke off, out of focus, of course. So is it focusing? You see, the head of the screw is very weak. That's the bottom. So that sheet, as if it was only, look, held by there. I'm just wondering, could it be that the reason why this, look how it distorted, even around here where the pipe was. So the pressure was pulling this like that until the head, which, you know, how I sort of realized it's not very strong on the screw. And then when it snapped off, would the pressure did that? I don't know. Let's say the head was strong and it couldn't do that, though it still bent it too from there. So this idea, the screw being weak, very weak, wouldn't have helped. You can see it was as if it's like made out of two pieces. But even maybe if the screw was strong, maybe this idea, it's creating leverage here, and it's never going to work. I think I have to hold it how the original, with the pins around the fitting. So that was a fail. Up to now it looks like that's the only thing that failed. I cannot test it until I rectify this issue. Alright, so what I thought was, before I start making another one, I took it off from the T, and I decided to try drilling the 2 holes to use the same system as they used inside the main housing there. You can see the U pin. So okay, that's what I did. I still have to put it on and try it. The hard part was drilling the holes. It's not a pretty sight the way it ended up being. Okay, you remember I had the other 2 holes there originally that I did with the thread to do this system that failed. Obviously I had no idea of the pressure there, that it could destroy that. And so I had the extra hole there. I put a screw and I just broke it in there. I didn't have the right thread. That's to block the other hole. I didn't have to do that. I just put some solder. Didn't have to do the side of the solder there, just to fill that little bit of a hole there. Because the seal is done on this section. This is where the O-ring sits in here. This is just holds the back of the housing. So let's see. Let me get out of the zoom here. So this section is towards the back, and where this O-ring is just the front, which I haven't touched. That's still okay. So the reason why I didn't want to try this, because have a look how I had to do it. It's very hard to drill on a drill press with just a drill bit when you don't have a flat surface here for the drill to sit in, the drill bit. And also when it goes through here, the drill's not going to twist. Once you drill the first hole, it's going to twist out. You really need some sort of milling tool that doesn't flex to be able to bore as well the internal part of here, which had to be done as well. Okay, which you can see in there and in there. Okay, so it actually fitted. It's a tight fit. That's loose now, of course. That hasn't got this in, but once this goes in, the U pin goes tight, which that's what you want. Otherwise it might come off. So now it's a matter of installing it back in here. Okay, so I'll put the Teflon tape on the thread. This, of course, is a tapered thread here. I think that might be enough. I think I would leave it like that. Bit of O-ring grease. Fit it in here. And I'll put the camera in a better position. And we'll use this to compress it in. Okay, so that's locked in there. So hopefully that's what it looks like. It won't come off this time, or the fitting won't break, since I did weaken it to drill it. The material, yeah. So we'll try that and see what happens. Okay, so I've got it hooked up and I'm about to put it on. So up to now, there's no leaks and it's holding. See if I can put up the water input pressure, but it seems to be okay. So I don't see any leaks, which I think is okay. And it's not leaking from the ball valve that I put there. And I got no leaks from the fittings. So it might be okay. So seems like it's got plenty of pressure. So hopefully now I'll be able to drain the water and after finishing, and it will last a little bit. So obviously that system there with the U, that's a good system, and I should have done it like that in the first place. But I thought it was too hard to do it, and it was hard. I had to, drilling the holes, I had to actually file it and just to get it right. Doing it manually. Okay, so that's that.